This regular meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 7 p.m. I am very pleased that you've taken time to join us this evening. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the State Government Code on Open Meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in public, not a meeting of the public. As our guest, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Ms. Eaton? Present. Ms. Rodriguez?
Present.
Ms. Pichal?
Present. Thank you for being here this evening.
Mr. Macias?
Present, and appreciate your attendance.
Ms. Kenoyer?
Present. Thank you all for attending.
And I am Dr. Melinda Salinas, Board President, and to my left we have Dr. Carl Montoya, Superintendent.
Present.
And if everyone will please confirm that they're present for roll call.
Everybody. Okay. And are you ready?
Mhm.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and bow your heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. We thank you for the opportunity to do, working together, what's best for our staff, our students, and our community. We also thank you for all the benefits, all the gifts, all of the positive things that you have given our school district, our students and staff, and we ask that that continue always into the future. We also ask that as people go home this evening, that everyone get home safely. We pray in your name, amen.
I'd like to introduce to you this evening our pledge leader for tonight. It is Alize Renee Maldonado. Alize, why don't you come on up here to the front? Alize is an outstanding fifth grader from Millers Point Elementary. She is a member of Student Ambassadors, the school's honor roll, and participates in Ms. Lyle's Before School Volunteer Program. She is also active in her community. Let's join Alize in the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Let's give Alizé a hand for a nice job. Yes. There's a pencil in there, too. I think she has some other family members here as well. Can you just wave your hand or something? There you go. I'd also like to recognize the Wagner High School Junior ROTC, Cadet Private First Class Hunter Hawkins, Cadet Staff Sergeant Decivity Olaka, Cadet Private First Class Ralph Ambries, and Cadet Staff Sergeant Shamari Washington. Our board recognition this evening comes from the J-STEM Academy. The school within a school located on the campus of Judson Middle School has been named as the Project Lead the Way Gateway Showcase School. J-STEM is the only middle school in the entire state of Texas to be awarded this honor. This evening we want to recognize some of the teachers at J-STEM that have helped develop such a high level of engagement, rigor, and consistency in the engineering design and research for this kind of curriculum. These teachers are Lydia Ayala, Russell Baskin, Sally Bancroft, Ashton Elliott, Joseph Jacobson, Megan Latimer, Melissa Martinez, Randall Oman, Jennifer Robinson, and Danielle Smith. The director of the J-STEM Academy is Don Worley. And those are our recognitions for this evening.
We will now proceed to item 3, acknowledgement of visitors and citizens to be heard. This time is provided for citizens to address the board on issues or concerns. A person may speak one time for a period of 3 minutes. Presentation shall be informative only. No board action will be taken. A complaint or charge against an officer or employee of the district is not allowed in open session. Complaints and concerns should first be addressed by campus and/or district administration. If your topic involves a personnel matter, a student matter, or if you contend that your legal rights have been violated or board policy not followed, we have specific grievance procedures, DGBA legal and local, for these matters, and now is not the appropriate time to discuss these matters. We respectfully ask that you refrain from making personal attacks or rude or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous. The presiding officer shall determine whether a person who wishes to address the board has attempted to solve a matter administratively. If not, the person shall be directed to the appropriate policy to seek resolution before bringing the matter to the board at a subsequent meeting. Citizens wishing to receive a response from concerns presented to the board must provide written documentation. The board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. And our first speaker is Mike McFalls, and the agenda item to be discussed is JECA.
Good evening, Dr. Salinas, Dr. Montoya, Board, and Cabinet. To say the least, that I am proud to be the principal at JECA is an understatement tonight. I'm here to dispel some myths about our school and our student population. I'm also here to implore you to make a statement about JECA's future and recognize my student council, who on their own accord has made a commitment to be present at board meetings to show their involvement and commitment to our district and to represent JECA at all board meetings. I'd like to start by sharing some highlights about JECA. We will be graduating our 6th class this year. We have, for 2 years in a row, earned 7 distinctions from TEA. This year, we're number 1 in our comparison group compared to all of our other schools. We have a 100% graduation rate from high school, and approximately 90% of our seniors receive their associate's degrees. The remainders pick them up during the next summer. Our seniors in 2017 had $27 million in offered scholarships. 100% were accepted to colleges. Most, if not all, of the credits our students earn are transferable. Our target population, as outlined in the TEA benchmarks, are first-generation college students, economically disadvantaged, and underrepresented minorities. We mirror the district in ethnicity. We are a minority-majority school. We are working very hard to match the economic disadvantaged statistics of the district, and currently we are at 49%. We enroll a percentage from each middle school based on the size of their 8th grade class, so there is equity among all the middle schools. And we accept 10% from home and private schools. We are open to any and all students that reside in the JISD attendance zone. We have students from all economic levels, ethnicities, and backgrounds. We are very diverse and non-discriminatory. And we've been working very diligently to identify and recruit students from our target population. Second, I would like to encourage the board to make a statement of support for the present and future of JECA. Every time that there is a statement, a news article, it causes a flurry of rumors and anxiety among our students, staff, and parents. It is also a particular concern at this particular time because we have begun our recruiting process for next year's 9th grade class. I have concluded meeting with all 8th grade classes at middle schools, and we have our parent meetings next week. Parents will not be interested in sending their students to a school that has an uncertain future. So I implore you to make a decision and come out with a statement in support. And finally, I would like the board, cabinet members, and members of the audience to recognize my student council, who on their own organized a meeting and have encouraged students and parents to attend tonight's meeting. I was aware that there would be a slight presence. I am overwhelmed by my students and their presence, and my apologies to those that cannot find a seat. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Kizzy Calhoun, and the agenda item to be discussed is NHI.
Hi, my name is Zion Thomas, and I currently attend Wagner High School Early College, and I'm here to talk about the NHI program, which helped impact me in a great way. Also, my academics and my work and my experience as a student in high school.
My son is being very modest. This summer, Zion represented Judson ISD as well as the Mighty Thunderbirds in the Great Debate, representing NHI. He was the only representative from Judson ISD. He placed number 16 out of 80 in his category of cross-examination, as well as he will be going to the Celebration, which is another competition this fall in November. He also looks forward to participating in the Lorenzo de Zavala Youth Senate session in 2018, summer of 2018, at San Diego State University. The reason why we wanted to bring this before the board is because this opportunity was afforded to us as a blessing in disguise. For many years, my son has had dreams to go to different colleges and universities, and as you know, when you send letters, you don't always get them back. And being a part of this has shaped him and molded him to be himself. Zion has always been a high scholar, but of course, you know that is not the status quo. The status quo is to be cool, to play ball, to do different things. So he's always struggled, and with this program, it's allowed him to be himself as a scholar, and he's also excelled in many areas as you can see, his speech was really short. But in NHI, they had to come up and study and create these debates about political issues within the community. I know a lot of people, especially when Zion first started on his journey, the program is the National Hispanic Institute. And of course, you see, we are not Hispanic, but the program is opening up its doors to all nationalities. And we want to see, as the board, we petitioned the board to to look into the program. I left some brochures here of the different programs that they offer, as well as Dr. Montoya. We also known that from the district that you came from, that you are a supporter of the program, as well as you sponsoring students. And we just wanted to make this opportunity available, want you to make this opportunity known to the Judson campus, the district as a whole, for the high school students, as well as looking into seeing of sponsoring the students, because it's a great investment. Right now, Zion's choice was it's UT. That's where he wanted to go, and for many years we've been trying to get into camps, and now they're begging us for him to go to their camps, as well as Villanova, Baylor University, Rice, Stanford, again, and he's going to be going to for the competition to San Diego State University this summer, and we just look forward to having a partnership, bridging a partnership with Judson ISD, as well as recruiting other students to be able to experience this opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and
Thank
we
you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just to verify, NHI is National Hispanic Institute.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next, we have Melanie Perales, and the agenda item is Citizen to be Heard Insurance Cost.
Good evening, Dr. Montoya and Judson ISD School Board members. My name is Melanie Perales. I'm a product of Judson ISD, a community member of Judson ISD. I have students in Judson ISD, and I'm also an employee of the district. I'm thankful for your decision to raise for our raises this school year. However, I am here to ask for some additional support. Our medical insurance contributions have increased dramatically, and while I do understand why this is, I don't understand why Judson ISD has not stepped up its contribution to offset the increased cost. The cost has increased 206% for my family, and we are expecting our fourth child, and this rise in healthcare cost is threatening to destroy all that we have built from working here at Judson ISD. Our youngest child is autistic, and he requires therapies twice a week. When the cost is added to what we now have to pay monthly, our results are going to be over $1,200 a month, and that's just for his care. Though you may see it as just our situation, there are many other employees, ones that I work with, others that I've spoken with, that are in similar situations. Our custodians, our cafeteria workers, our aides in our special education classrooms, our office workers. They're all thinking about dropping insurances altogether because of the costs. I understand economics, and I understand as demand increases, so does the price. But as our employer, I do not think it is fair to put the entire increase on us when we have no voice or even a plan for the vendor that offers coverage. At this time, I'm currently an LVN, and I'm making half of the income I could make in the corporate sector. And if things don't change soon, I'll be forced to do what is right for my family and tender my resignation. I don't want to do that because I do love my Judson family. I may have the income to support my family, if you guys would also help us by offsetting the costs. And this is a call to action. Numbers may look good on paper, but when you see how they affect people in real life, they tend to lose their alluring nature. Please help us. Increase the district's contribution to lessen our employees' costs. And that is all.
Next, we have Cherish Long, and the agenda item to be discussed is number 5C.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Cherish Long. I'm a Sergeant First Class in the United States Army, and I've been stationed at Fort Sam Houston now for almost 2 years. My daughter is a student at JECA. She went to Woodlake last year. And as Mr. McFall stated, those numbers and the status that JECA has don't lie. If you take this opportunity away from these kids, there's no telling where they're going to end up. So I'm asking, in conjunction with Mr. McFalls, a vote of confidence to keep JECA as an opportunity for the kids that are there now, as well as for the kids that can go there in the future. I have a 9-year-old son, and my 9-year-old son's already saying, I want to go to JECA when I get into high school as well. So please, keep it available for them. I understand finances. I understand that there's a budget that we have to look at, but maybe there's other options rather than just closing down JECA. Let's look at maybe looking for scholarships for these kids to attend their college classes. Look at the possibility of opening up grants like the Pell Grant. I'm in college right now, and I'm taking advantage of the Pell Grant. I would even offer to, or be able to pay the $200 for each college class for my daughter to go. Now, I know not all kids are going to be able to do that, but maybe we can look at doing a prorated amount. There are so many other options rather than just saying, well, we can't afford JECA, let's just shut it down. Please take that into consideration.
And the final group, I believe we have, is it Noah, Thomas, and Megan? And the agenda item is JECA.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Thomas Daly. I'm a current junior at Judson Early College Academy. Tonight I'll be speaking on behalf of JECA and for my sister, who is a JECA alumni of class of 2017, who could not be here tonight. Judson Early College Academy is no doubt the prized gem of Judson ISD. We have had 7-star distinction almost every year for the star, and we have also had numerous amounts of scholarships offered to us, far more than any of Judson's high schools combined. So I understand the cost for us to attend JECA will go up to about $250,000 for all of us to attend, and I understand that it will have a big impact on the budget as well as some of the teachers' wages. Now, if you take a close look at the JECA logo, it's rather similar to Superman's logo. And according to Man of Steel, the movie, he says that the S on this planet stands for hope, and JECA stands for hope for all the students that and parents that cannot afford to go to college and wish for a better future.
Hi, my name is Megan Crudwig. I am currently a sophomore at JECA. I am the first out of 10 children who have attended college. My younger brother is actually deaf, and I am hard of hearing, and I have made it possible for him to think that you are able to go to college even if you have these disabilities. JECA is more than just, a school to us. It's a family. You get that sense of family here. You have the clubs that you join, and you have this sense of leadership, and you have that sense of hope that you have in it. You have the sense of, direction for the future. We have our college prep teachers. They show us how things go. They show you how to apply for college. They show you that not everyone's going to hold your hands. They teach us how to self-advocate for ourselves, that we need to take the opportunity to show that we can do this. And that is what JECA is. It's to show that you can do this, that anyone can do this. All you have to do is apply yourself.
Hi, I'm Noah Zuckerman. Like TJ, I am a junior at JECA right now. I think it's pretty clear just from what they've said and from what others have said and just our presence here that JECA is very important to us and that JECA is very important to our community, but it is also important to look at the economics behind it. I have here some ideas for how to fund this problem. Students could pay a semester fee similar to those levied by other activities like sports and similar early college academies in the area. JISD's grant writer could engage in intensive grant writing to help create a fund in order to pay for this. Thank you. Oh, okay. I would also like to suggest a meeting in which stakeholders affected can be present in order to explore the possibilities to maintain JECA's current standing and to go over the things that I've just suggested and have been suggested by other speakers. Thank you.
We'll move on to item 4, consideration of consent items. I'll read each item and please let me know if you'd like one pulled. 4A, consider and take action regarding approving board minutes from the regular meeting held on September 21st, 2017. 4B, consider and take action regarding approving monthly financial information as of September 30th, 2017. 4C, consider and take action regarding approving budget transfers from across functions. 4D, consider and take action regarding approving expenditure equal to or greater than $50,000. 4E, consider and take action regarding approving the cash investment report for all funds as of September 30th, 2017. 4F, consider and take action regarding approving request for proposal 16-01, fundraiser products and services. 4G, consider and take action regarding approving request for proposal 17-35 for general and instructional supplies. 4H, consider and take action regarding approving requests for proposals 18-04 for automotive parts and lubricants. 4I, consider and take action regarding approving the updated certified list of appraisers for the 2017-2018 school year. And 4J, consider and take action regarding approving the second reading of EL local campus charters.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Macias?
Second.
Second, Ms. Pashal. Any discussion? Nope. We're going to go ahead and proceed to vote then. We're voting on items 4A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. Sorry, there we are voting. Motion carries 6-0. Motions carry 6-0, I guess. We'll move on to 5A. Consider and take possible action regarding approving the appointment of 3 community members for the Judson ISD Hall of Honor Selection Committee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Pashal. Second. Second, Ms. Canoyer. Dr. Montoya or Mr. Linscomb, I don't know who's taking this item.
Mr. Linscomb, why don't you briefly share that piece?
As a result of being on this committee, we have 2 community members that have been put forth and submitted. The third one that we did have submitted, actually,
We have just, going through the submissions, the nominations, that particular person who was to be serving on that committee has been nominated for the Hall of Honor. So to be fair to that individual, we need to have another submission from the Wagner attendance zone in order to serve on that committee. And so what I would like to ask the board to do is to, if you have some names in mind from that particular attendance zone, to submit them either this evening, at the very latest, just because of a timeline that we're trying to follow, and give the selection committees enough time to look over the information that they have from these nominations. We'd like to try to give them a couple of weeks to look that over, and then for them to physically meet and discuss, and then come up with their selections out of those two committees. So with that being said, I'd like to ask either the board if they would, if they have any names for, that they would like to put out for that last committee member, community member, from the Wagner attendance zone. We'd be open for it right now. If you would like to submit that maybe as late as tomorrow, that would be great as well. That would allow us to be able to stay on this timeline, but we just want to give the committees long enough time to look over the information before they physically meet.
Thank you. Ms. Pashal?
Thank you, Dr. Salinas. Mr. Linscomb, I would like to first ask a question of you. I have submitted a name, but because I am an at-large representative and I represent the entire Judson District, I'd like to know if it is appropriate for me to suggest another name.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's with you being an at-large position, that would be perfectly fine. If you have someone in mind, that would be great.
The name that I thought of was Mr. Sonny Merrill, and I am not quite sure of his address. I don't know what it is, but I was told that Mr. Merrill now lives in the Wagner attendance zone.
That is, I think you may be, I think you're correct in that. I will tell you, at this point, that was the name that was submitted. So I didn't want to, you know, put the name out there, but that individual has been put forth as a nominee for the hall. So, you know, you really can't serve on the committee as well as be as a nominee. So that's the reason why we're going through this process. So if you have any names that you would like to put out there, that's fine. If not, please feel free to email any suggestions. But the problem is that we need to have those names and have them okayed for this evening, if possible. Now I did have a couple of names that have served on the committee when it was just one committee. In the past. There's Dr. Ron Kelly. I don't know if he still lives in the district or in that particular attendance zone. Kelly Wilson as well. I don't know if any of these names ring a bell or if you know if they still live in those boundary zones. Okay. All right, well, we really, Dr. Montoya, I really, at this point, unless we have a third name on that committee, and for the board to actually give its blessing on this, we really can't move forward as far as I see it.
Unless the board would like to go ahead and approve the two, and no later than tomorrow submit the third name, obviously, to your office. You know, maybe that would at least move it forward a little quicker. I don't know.
That is,
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Linscomb, since you have names, those names that you just called out,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have their contact information from before? Maybe you could reach out to them again.
I could. If I bring one of those back, I could email it to the entire board, and through communication, return communication to me, we could hammer that out and get it done, if that's workable for the board as a whole.
Yeah. And one more thing, in addition to that, you didn't mention the term of those people that serve on that committee.
Correct.
And I can't remember what month it was, but I do recall last year, when we were going through this same thing, Mr. Macias brought up the fact that it might be a good idea for these people to serve for at least 2 years, to have time to be together for 2 years, and then after that, select some more people.
Right.
Rather than selecting different people year after year after year. But it wasn't written quite that way on our agenda, so I would suppose we'd have to have an amendment to that. Okay.
I was just informed that Mr. Kelly's son goes to Franz Elementary, so he may not be in the Wagner attendance zone.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I know I'm next. Dr. Salinas? I know, Steve, you've been, Mr. Linscomb, excuse me, that you've been asking, for several weeks from names, and I was looking, I know this is not a board policy, right?
Correct. It is a criteria that,
So I don't know how the board feels, but I certainly would not want to hold up the process because we have not been able to give you names that are viable, that are appropriate for the 3 areas. I don't know how the board feels, but if we could, after a certain time, if there's no one, then if you could please proceed.
sure.
We've been given multiple opportunities, and I know you might have to rewrite the paper again and maybe put a clause in there in the event after 2 weeks or 3 weeks that the board does not, proceed with names. Because we had the same problem last year.
Right.
Where we were still looking for names. And so I don't want to hold it up for the Hall of Honor. It's a very important event that we have, and so that's just my opinion.
And therein lie, I think, would be the advantage of having, them serve for 2 years, I think, as well.
Right.
That way, we're not constantly going back for, new names and so forth, so.
So that's my suggestion. So we might have to amend the motion, though, to proceed without names if they're not received by tomorrow. I don't know what time. What time do you need them by?
At the end of the business day tomorrow?
So by 4 PM?
Yes, ma'am, that would be
Okay.
fine.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
I guess I would like to amend the motion. I'd like to make a motion that we hold off. No, not hold off? We go ahead and accept the 2 names that have been submitted. And Mr. Linscomb will keep the, I guess we'll keep the 3rd position open until close of business day tomorrow. And that once the close of the business day has taken place, these people will serve on the committee for a period of 2 years. The end.
Wait a minute, we got to vote on the motion and then vote on the real amended motion. So, Ms. Pashaw's amended the motion, second by Mr. Macias. Any discussion? We'll just say all those in favor right now, because then it'll mess up the voting system. So, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? So the amended motion passes 6-0, and now we'll vote on the actual new motion, correct? Yes.
Yes.
So do I have a motion on the amendment now?
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Pashal. Second, Ms. Canoyer. Now we will proceed to vote. Let me proceed to vote. We're voting on the amended motion that right now we will accept the 2 nominations. If we do not produce a third nomination by the end of business day tomorrow, 4 p.m., that you will proceed, and the 2 names that are given to you now will serve for 2 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just want to make sure I got it right. Nope. What? You're not changing it now.
No, but is it all right to say who the 2 names are? Is that? or
Can we
not?
do it after we vote?
Okay.
Okay. Motion, amended motion carries 6-0. Now, Mr. Linscomb, if you'd like to let us know.
The other 2 representatives on the committee, representing the Veterans Memorial Attendance Zone is Mayor Tom Daly of Selma, and representing the Judson Attendance Zone is Mr. Randy Pennell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 5B, consider and take action regarding the capping of Judson ISD campuses. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Motion, Ms. Pashal.
Second.
Second, Ms. Rodriguez. Any discussion?
Okay.
Mr. Macias.
Dr. Montoya, it looks pretty good. I appreciate all the work in getting this before us. I guess looking at some of these issues, when we're transferring some kids from some of the elementary schools to some of the ones that we're not going to cap, are the parents transporting the kids there, or are we taking them?
Dr. Fields, if you'll address that. The answer in general, it is done that way. That's correct. That they transfer, if a student's transfer, the parents have to furnish their transportation.
I'm sorry, Doctor.
Now, are we setting something up that we can do?
Well, sir, for when we have to transfer students from one campus to another
We
based on us
furnish.
capping, then we provide.
Okay.
transportation.
So we can furnish the buses ourselves and to support the kids being
Yes, sir.
transferred? Okay, that's good.
Well, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. May I address Mr. Fields?
Yes.
Thank you. And maybe it's you, Mr. Garcia, looking at the numbers here. I was talking with someone who served on the site-based committee yesterday, and there was some discussion about the numbers of teachers not being accurate at one, possibly more campuses. Has that all been addressed and looked at?
Yes, ma'am. We get the numbers that are reported from the campuses, so if there's any different, we change them accordingly. But we feel like these are accurate as far as what we received on Wednesday, previous Wednesday.
So have you investigated what was said at the meeting yesterday?
No, ma'am, I didn't get any specific campuses that stated that the numbers were different unless, we may have, but so no, I have not had the chance to do that.
Would you please check into that? Because if we have an extra teacher at one campus where the numbers would be considerably lower than 21 students per classroom, that teacher should be relocated to a campus where the numbers are higher.
Yes, ma'am, I will check on that.
Ms. Rodriguez.
My question was regarding some of the campuses showing at 0.5 for the teacher. Is that teacher spread across 2 campuses then and doing half and half, or do we have part-time teachers, just out of curiosity?
That is, at pre-K is half a day,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how it's notated for pre-K, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garcia, can we know what campuses are possibly not accurate?
Ma'am, I don't recall the specific campus yesterday at the district site-based meeting. I do have my notes, but as far as, was it Park Village? Third grade Park Village. Okay, I'll look into third grade Park Village. I do not recall that being mentioned.
That's it. I'm sorry.
We'll proceed to vote. Motion carries 6-0. 5B, consider and take possible action regarding early college high school restructured options for all early college high schools to include the actual cost of the program at each high school. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Macias, second, Ms. Eaton.
Okay, Dr. Cantu, Ms. Barra, if you'll step up and please do your presentation. Of course, the board is also welcome to ask questions on this presentation.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Montoya. In your board packet, you have the presentation that we shared at the last board meeting. During that presentation, if you will recall, the item was tabled. So we're bringing it back, and what I'd like to do is share with you this presentation, and if you have any questions, you certainly are welcome to ask. Okay, this is a presentation in your packet, and what I'd like to do is start with sharing with you and take you back to the August board meeting. During the August board meeting, we shared 3 options to operate the early college high school in a more cost-effective manner. And those 3 options included, 1 was to keep the early college structure at all our high schools, including JECA. Number 2 was to continue evaluating different structures and propose new structures. And the third one was to terminate the school within a school at the comprehensive high school, but keep JECA. Those were the options. We were then given direction to look at 2 restructured options for the school within a school, and then 1 option for JECA. So we brought forth the restructured options. The first one we talked about was maybe reducing the student enrollment at the comprehensive high schools. Instead of 125 students, which is the current MOU expectation, to 80 students, and continue it at the 3 comprehensive high schools. The intent of that was to reduce the cost. The second option was to continue to offer JECA as what the state defines as a standalone model, and combine the 3 early college high schools into 1 school within a school. We were also asked to look at JECA and to look at a cost-effective plan for JECA. So what we'd like to do is, I'm not going to read this to you, but I'd like to just quickly look at the objective of an early college high school. It is intended for students that are least likely to attend college, and it's to give them the opportunity to earn up to 60 college hours. It should be at no cost to the students, and it is a rigorous instruction, and it mirrors college setting as far as the rigor. So you can see the other objectives listed there. I'm not going to read those to you. I also would like to refresh your mind regarding the different models that we have at Judson ISD. You will notice that JECA is in green. That model, the state refers to as a standalone campus. The 3 other campuses, Judson High School, Veterans Memorial High School, and Wagner High School, are school within a school models. You also will notice that for this school year, being year 2 for the school within a school, we have approximately 512 students. So let's talk a little bit about option 1, reducing the early college student enrollment. This slide is referencing the schools within a school at the 3 comprehensive high schools. The current MOU outlines that we will enroll up to 125 students per grade level. Our recommendation is to reduce the number to 80 students at each high school. The district-wide reduction would be 135 students each year. There would be no additional transportation cost because of the fact that they're remaining at the current campus. The investment would be approximately 485 students at JECA as a standalone campus, and at full capacity, all the schools within a school would be at 320 students. That is option 1. Now, you also asked us to bring forth a budget. This budget is a best case scenario. Let me define what a best case scenario, what that means. What that means is that if you look at the assumptions at the bottom of the page, this would be a cohort of 80 students, with a possibility of earning up to 60 hours. This would be NLC faculty would teach the courses listed at $2,800 per course, which is the current rate. We're also assuming that all students are going to be TSI ready so that they can move on to the different rigor and the different courses. The textbook price that you see here is a quote based on the current prices. And I say that because we want to be very transparent with you. That is what the cost is at this time. And so you will note that you will see the freshmen, you see the 6 hours, the sophomores will enroll in 12 hours, juniors in 18 hours, seniors in 24 hours, and a total up to 60 hours. That is the option that they have. You see the cost breakdown at each column, and you will see that the total allocation or the total cost for one campus is $342,516. That is best case scenario. Now, in this option, as of September of this year, we had approximately 8 courses or 20 sections that have been taught by JISD faculty. This is a savings of about $56,000. This is a trend that we definitely want to focus as we continue and making sure that we hire teachers that have a master's degree in core content areas, because at the end of the day, the teacher with a master's degree can teach and can be an adjunct professor in addition to a high school teacher. However, if we look at the current data that we have, we are in year 2 of a school within a school. In year 1, what we found is that the students take elective courses. Most students and almost all students passed the elective course. However, we also noticed that because it's a school within a school, it's a different model. The model allows students to take extracurricular activities, whether it's athletics, band, drama, and other extracurricular activities. And what we are finding is that in the school within a school, which is the intent of that model, about 50% of the students are continuing to take the number of courses that are required. So when we looked at the previous page and we said there would be 12 hours the second year, then not all students are doing that at the school within a school for various reasons. Some because they choose to take extracurricular activities, others because they need to continue to prepare for the TSI. They haven't mastered certain courses. So about 50% of our students are not ready to move on. So when we look at that, okay, I want to make sure that I'm in the right slide here. So based on that, if we look at that information, that 50% of the students are enrolling at the school within a school, this is not about JECA students, this is about the school within a school, then we need to look at a more realistic budget. Because knowing that the students, 50% of them are not taking all the courses. So this budget is what you have in front of you. This is what we're referring to as option 1. We continue to have the JISD faculty teach the courses. About 50% of the students are choosing not to continue taking all the courses that are recommended or are not TSI ready. The textbook prices are continue based on this year. And the total savings to the district, if you look at this page, if we go with 50% of the students that are currently in a school within a school advancing, it's a savings to the district of about $151,362. Again, there would be no additional transportation costs. The total cost for one campus is $214,810. And you can see the breakdown by each grade level, or you see the freshmen, the sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Okay? So that is option 1. I'd like to invite Ms. Barra to share option 2.
Good evening. I'm Elida Barra. I'm the Deputy Superintendent. I'll be sharing with you this particular PowerPoint that Dr. Cantu shared with you at the last meeting. I will go ahead and talk about option 2, which is a school within a school. This option allows the students the opportunity to enroll in the 2 early college high school models or as a standalone campus. It'll combine all the 3 early college high schools right now that are at the larger high schools and combine it into one. We need to identify which school that would be. At this point, we have identified Judson High School, but we are not limited to Judson High School. We can open it to other schools as well. The one concern that we do have is the impact that it will have on the state accountability system, House Bill 2, Domain 1, and that is student achievement. Our concern is that by putting all of those students that are in early college high schools into one high school, that we will be what we call brain draining. We'll be taking all those students that are going into the early college and concentrating them in one location, and that would be unfair to the other high schools. And usually, it's not a problem, but when it comes down to the state accountability system, a lot of the schools notice the impact that that has. The other concern would be students. For example, if we leave it at Judson, will the Thunderbirds want to be considered Rockets? And if we take it to Wagner, will the Rockets want to be considered Thunderbirds? For JECA, if we look at JECA, and I was happy to hear that some of the students had some recommendations for looking at a cost-saving plan for JECA. One of the things that we would like to consider for JECA as a cost-saving option is to go ahead and let our current teachers start teaching in the dual credit program. Many of the teachers there have the certification, but in the way the program is now, they are not teaching those dual credit classes. Those students are taking those classes at the university, at NLC. Some of the implications, we would be saving money on those teachers because we would not be paying the $2,800 that we have to pay for the college professor to teach that class. Or it would also be saving the $100 per student if the class is not made up fully of JECA students at NLC. The other positive by our teachers teaching those classes is that the textbooks, right now, the teachers at NLC, the professors at NLC, have what they call academic freedom. And under academic freedom, they can go ahead and choose to change the textbook at any time, a year, every other year. Whereas if we, as our own teachers, are teaching those classes, that we can go ahead and keep the same book for at least a minimum of 3 years. Another area that we may want to consider a cost saving for JECA is the transportation. Currently, JECA is assigned their own buses. The students are picked up at their own home, and they're brought in to JECA. The cost for that is about $178,000 per year. One of the recommendations is that we continue doing that. The only problem with that is that if we allow the buses to pick up the students along with the other students, other high school students, their timing is different. The other high schools start at 8:35, while JECA starts at 8. So, what are our recommendations? One of them is to reduce the student enrollment, which was the option one that Dr. Cantu talked about. Reduce the student enrollment from 135 to 80 students per campus at the 3 comprehensive high schools. And the other option is combining them all in one school. And then, of course, looking at a cost reduction for JECA. Option 1, some of the implications, is that if we go ahead and lower the the number of students that we are enrolling in those campuses, it will, 1, keep the commitment that we promised our parents. It will also won't significantly impact Domain 1 for our students, and really there won't be any additional transportation costs because the students are already in their home zone. If we look at option 2, we need to look at where the students will be graduating from. Some of the students have long traditions of graduating from either Judson High School or have started a tradition of graduating from Wagner. Or at this point, veterans. How will that impact their decision to go to one campus? And also, will TEA accept our new design? We don't know that yet. And the transportation cost will stay the same, especially for JECA. So we are recommending that we keep the early college high schools at each campus and limit the number of students enrolling to 80 students per campus. Dr. Cantu has already gone over what the budget implications will be for that particular option. In addition, we're also looking at JECA and how it is that we can go ahead and utilize the teachers to save some more money in that area. So we need to make a decision as soon as possible. Why? Because we're looking at when we need to apply for our designation, although Dr. Cantu will share with you, she did call TEA, and they gave us an extension for our proposal. So we do have a little bit of leeway. Also, we need to make sure, because one of our MOUs, our Memorandum of Understanding, states that if our junior students continue in that program, that we need to see them through their senior year. So we need to make sure that we've looked at that as well. And also, I do want to let you know that our discussions with NLC and Alamo colleges has begun. We had a meeting earlier this week to go over some of the implications that their cost-sharing model has had on us as a district. Okay, Dr. Cantu and I are here to answer any questions for you that you may have.
Ms. Barra mentioned the update. There is an update, and you will note that the PowerPoint is the same one that you've seen before from last month, but the update regarding the timeline, we reached out to the Texas Education Agency and asked about a timeline. There is an extension, so the decision could be, we'd have to submit it to the state no later than early February. So the recommendation would be to make some decisions in December so that we could give the Alamo Colleges District Board the time to entertain, to ask questions, and to review it, and then submit it in February if that is the wish of the board.
Ms. Eaton.
As I recall, one of the questions that we did ask before was, when you meet with the college, are they willing to concede some on the money or contribute more, or did that conversation take place?
We had a meeting this week, and we had several of our board members there, and I want to thank them for making time to meet with the Alamo Colleges District Board. And it was not a full board, obviously, but there was some conversation about this. And Alamo Colleges District at this time is not able to change the $100 cost per student. However, one of the things that they're willing to consider and to review is to come back and let's sit down and go course by course and see what we can do to possibly hire our own teachers so that the cost is not as expensive. So that would also, as Ms. Barra mentioned in one of the slides, that would also give us some leadway with the instructional materials instead of purchasing them every year or every term. That gives us other options. The board also, the Alamo Colleges District Board also talked about that they're willing to negotiate the fact that the instructional materials, that not only for our instructors, but if we have to use their instructors, they're willing to negotiate and commit to using the instructional materials for several years. So those were some of the things that came out, and if I missed something, the board members that were present, please jump in.
No, that basically is what what we talked about that I remember. I mean, unless somebody else recalls something, is that we were concerned about their contribution toward, helping us to help ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's.
Thank you. Dr. Cantu and Ms. Barra, thank you so much for your presentation. I apologize that I was not here last month, so I may ask some questions that you have already addressed. I noticed that we received some JECA information, and My question is about the first generation, because one of the purposes of early college is to engage students least likely to attend college, first-generation college students. And so some of the information we received from JECA and the district, it says first generation unavailable. Do we have those numbers now?
Not for
We do have, we can get that for you. One of the things we did ask Mr. McFalls to give us the information on the number of students. And so when, at the time when he submitted it, that was not available, but he is working on collecting that.
Do you know when we would receive that? I mean, it's a matter of asking the kids, did your parents go to college? Right? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think we can do a very quick turnaround to get that information.
So is that this week, next week?
Today is Thursday. I think we can get it by the end of the day.
Maybe
tomorrow.
Monday?
Or Monday.
Can we
would
get it by
be better.
Monday? That would be better?
Yes,
Okay.
Monday would be better.
So that's my first question. But option one, budget implications, best case scenario, which I believe is keeping the 80 students at each high school, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that also keeping JECA?
That is correct.
Okay, and so does that include transportation?
For JECA, yes.
Are you looking at slide number 9
I don't know what number it is.
in the board book? Is it
Option
page-
one, budget implications, best case scenario, that's the one I'm looking at. The $342,516.
Okay, let me turn to that page. And for the best, for all the board members, that would be page 195 in your board book.
Yes.
Okay, that includes, if you will look at this, best-case scenario, yes, we have taken that into account. If you will notice that we also included the college visits, so that would be the transportation costs that we've wrapped up into the college visits.
But this is not the cost of JECA also?
No, ma'am. This is the cost for the school within a school, for one campus.
Correct. So the cost of JECA for the 4 years,
The cost of JECA was submitted, it was requested, it was not in your PowerPoint.
Correct.
And the total cost for JECA for the 4 cohorts, the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, is $1,260,028.
$1,260,000? And we provide transportation, and currently it's door-to-door
That
from
is
house
correct,
to,
ma'am.
to school?
That is correct.
And we're looking at possibly changing that?
Yes, ma'am. That would be one of the cost-saving measures that we could look at, having them go to their home campus and be picked at the home campus.
Okay. And I really appreciate everyone who's here from JECA. I noticed that you were not just advocating for JECA, but you were also advocating for the other early college high schools, and you're to be commended for that. I loved their ideas. I like the tuition per course or tuition per semester, and certainly not the full cost of tuition, but certainly something to offset, if nothing else, the textbooks or some of the college visits, and possibly transportation. I don't know if we stop transportation, would students find a way to get there? I would venture to say everyone in here would get there. They would figure out a way to make it happen. So just as it's something to think about, don't go out and say, oh my God, they're stopping our buses. That's not what I'm saying right now. I'm just talking about, let's think about how to save even more money. I like those ideas. So if I'm at Wagner High School and I decide to be in the early college high school as a freshman, but then I really, really get into athletics or fine arts, what I'm hearing you say is about 50% of our students do not continue with the coursework recommended.
That is correct, ma'am.
So what is the difference? I know that the first year of early college, they're taking elective courses. Have we considered having some dual credit courses the first year? And then if they drop out, they're not in the early college? Because they would still be getting college credit, but we wouldn't have to do the electives first year, since we're having that, does that make sense? So,
Yes, part
so
of
that we
it-
wouldn't have the commitment then, we would have commitment to dual credit, but we wouldn't be tied into the early college, high school.
Part of that would be that our teachers would need to be duly trained.
Correct.
And all that, yes. And could it be possible? Yes, ma'am, it could.
And are we also using the Texas Virtual School Network?
Not at this time, no, we're not.
Okay, because that's another option, to receive some college credit, because that's what we do. We're a little bit smaller than Judson. But just some things to think about, because I do think it's very important. And what an opportunity to have. And Ms. Pashal was mentioning earlier that she actually visited the 4 middle schools today, or, I'm sorry, this week. where Mr. McFalls was presenting. And really he also mentioned the differences in each middle school. So I also think we need to talk to campus leadership about how important this is. And not just for one school, one middle school or two middle schools. It's important for everyone, but I don't know if that message is being conveyed. And if we're going to commit to funding any or part of this program, we're going to need that commitment from campus leadership. So things to think about is not providing transportation, considering some tuition for courses, considering at the campuses not starting with the early college elective courses, but maybe starting with some dual credit courses. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Salinas. I do want to stipulate there is a code. It's the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 102. I called the same people that Dr. Cantu called in terms of TEA and getting some input from a board perspective. And they clearly stipulated that any early college high school that's been approved cannot, where is it exactly stated, cannot charge tuition or fees. In fact, here's a student enrolled in an early college high school course for high school graduation credit may not be required to pay tuition fees or required textbooks. A school district or charter in which a student is enrolled shall pay for tuition. Anyway, basically that's something we just need to clarify. I like the idea, and we've kicked this idea around, but I think that potential concept might be difficult to implement. So we'll count on our administration to work through that. Attending that meeting, of course, we didn't have a quorum with this meeting with Alamo Colleges, so I just wanted to talk a little bit briefly and piggyback off of what Dr. Cantu had mentioned. It was a very effective meeting, in my opinion, in terms of really relaying to Alamo Colleges our commitment, but also to ascertain their commitment to working with us to support the early college high school program and our Judson Early College Academy. One of the things that I left there still nodding my head about it is that there was some persuasion to close our early college high school programs, that it was even recommended by Alamo Colleges that if we had to take any steps, that would be one of them. So as I'm looking at your recommendation, it looks like there was no agreement in that respect, not that we can't talk about it, but that we would then try to continue with the early college high school program with a cohort of 80 students in each program. And if I'm right, the option one, I have it on page 7, 195, is it $342,516 for each campus if we did that?
That would be the best case scenario, Mr. Macias. So that means that every student would have to take up to the 60 hours. And so when Dr. Salinas referenced the second budget that is in the packet, that is the more realistic because we are basing it on the trends that we're currently seeing for our students. So that would be the best case scenario, which is unlikely because based on the trend that we already saw for year one, transition to year two. So the budget that we would reference would be page 9 or 197 in your board book. This is about 50%, so you'll see the number of students or the costs broken down. You also can see that there's some JISD, and I failed to mention that earlier. I think some of you may have caught that. But when you see that budget, you see JISD. That means that would be our staff teaching those courses based on the teachers with advanced degrees that we have in our district.
Okay, and so now that I'm on page 197, and this is probably the best projection, we're looking at $214,810 per campus with a cohort of 80 students in the early college high school?
That is correct.
Okay, so for a grand total of $644,000 if we maintain that piece of it. Okay. The other thing that I guess I wanted to note from the meeting that I thought was interesting is that administration did a very good job of articulating what some of the barriers were to our efforts to reduce cost. And two areas that I was hopeful that we can reach some resolution. One being that I was informed that as a district, we had provided a list of 10 teachers with the qualifications to provide college courses, and they were rejected 9 out of 10 of them were rejected. So when we spoke with Alamo colleges, we said, hey, wait a minute, guys, we have people that meet those qualifications, and so we're going to find out why they were rejected, what the rationale is, work through that, because as we're looking to find cost-saving measures, that's something we need to see Alamo colleges also respond with. So I thought that was good. And then the other part was the commitment, and I felt there was a commitment to do better with instructional materials, to maintain that a little longer. So as we had our meeting, that was important to note, because some of our costs are tied into those instructional materials that we're paying per semester, I understand, in some cases. So that is a problem. So as a board member, I feel quite hopeful that we will reach some resolution with our partners. But also, I understand that we do have time, I think, until February with an extension of that. And obviously, if we're trying to help Judson Early College Academy be more efficient and work with that campus, I am certain that there may be opportunities then with the Early College High School within a school concept to also have some fees reduced. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, Mr. Macias, I think the commitment from the Alamo College's board was that they would sit with us and we would go through each course, look at our staff, and look at really tightening the belt as far as using our staff, maximizing that, and then also the instructional material commitment that they would consider and committed to making sure that we're not switching instructional materials as it has happened in the current practice.
Well, I would say, and then I'll yield my spot here and have some other input. If we were to continue with the early college high school model, that as Dr. Salinas had mentioned earlier about trying to ascertain how many first-generation students we have, that those 80 spots only go to those who are first generation, and that will meet that criteria in a very strict manner, because 80 is not a lot of students, and so if we're going to make that impact, it's those type of students that are economically disadvantaged that we're trying to help break the cycle of poverty that we need to have in these programs. So that would be one of the ways I'd be okay with spending money. And Ms. Kenora will obviously talk about this on her perspective, but she does make a valid point when she stipulates that we serve so many students in the district, and how can we be most efficient with our dollars. No, I'm not. That's it. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Salinas. Dr. Cantu and Ms. Berra, thank you for your presentation. I'm just going to piggyback on what a lot have already said. But I guess what I did not catch the other day at the meeting, I didn't catch that the students were picked up from their residence. I didn't catch that until tonight. I didn't realize that.
Let me clarify that. Dr. Fields, would you be able to provide some clarification from transportation?
Ma'am, the students are picked up like all other students in the district at a bus stop. They don't necessarily go to their house and wait for them to walk down the driveway, but they are picked up at a...
So it's a bus stop.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Fields, for the clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I was going to ask that question, why aren't you just going to the end of the street? All right, so that's null and void. My concerns are with the MOU. So the other day when we met, we talked about how that MOU needs to be revisited. And I guess what I would like to interject the most is that we are very clear that the MOU needs to, on our side, for our portion of it, that the MOU needs to be very clear of what we are willing and can afford for our JECA students, and be very, very clear that we want our teachers that are qualified to teach the classes. We want our teachers to teach our students, and we want our teachers to have the autonomy of choosing and keeping the textbooks as long as that course requires, or the teacher either or, whichever is necessary. I just would like for us to be very, very clear with ACCD of what we desire. Because it seems as if, once that MOU has been written by attorneys and with all that lingo, it gets confusing who does what. And that cost share needs to be very clear what Alamo colleges will do and what we will do in order to keep our students. And I just want to say to you kids that, you know, we love JECA as much as you do. We're very proud of you and that campus. And it has a very special place with me, and I'm so happy to see all of you that graduate year after year after year when we go to your graduations and see the success. You know, JECA is Judson's success, one of Judson's successes. And I have said to Dr. Cantu, it's something that we need to take to the state conventions that we go to and let them see just how successful you have been. But we don't want to see JECA go anywhere, just like you don't, and we want to be very clear. But it is our responsibility to be fiscally responsible, and that's what we're here for. We don't want to shut you down, but we do want to be fiscally responsible, and we know that's what you want us to do also. Dr. Cantu, my suggestion is that we table this until which time that MOU can be revisited. And that we, pardon me?
We have further discussion.
Oh,
We have two more
okay.
people who would like to speak.
I'm sorry. My recommendation is that we have another meeting. If there's some time to have another meeting with ACCD yet again before a decision is made. I just want us to be very clear what goes in that MOU. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
I echo many of the sentiments that have been shared by the rest of the board. I think one of the most important things to me in being on the school board in general, not just about this issue, is that we have equitable access to rigorous academics across the district. I think JECA represents an important part of that, but I also think that the early college high schools at each campus represent a very big portion of that as well, because not every student, it's not the right choice for every student to be at JECA. I think there's two questions that I had, and two questions. So one is, would we have to renegotiate the MOU as it stands in order to get permission to hire our own teachers into these positions where they're teaching? So that's not something that currently exists in the MOU?
There is some language in the current MOU that stipulates that if we have teachers that meet the criteria and they're interviewed and hired by the college, we can use them. So that language is already in the MOU.
So the college, though, has final authority over whether they're accepted or not?
That is correct. They go
Okay.
through their systems.
Got it. Is there any flexibility on that? Like, is that something we can negotiate, that they accept at least a certain amount of people that, at a minimum, that come from our district?
That's, I think, a fair request, and that's something that we would, if we schedule a second meeting, definitely have that conversation.
Okay. Another question I had was, if they did hire our teachers, is a way that we could save, I'm not exactly sure how textbook ordering goes, but I know there's a state adoption list and that there are usually AP textbooks on there. Could teachers elect to use AP textbooks for their college courses? And then would we have a cost savings if they did that?
I don't know, and I don't want to give you incorrect information.
yeah.
Because AP is a very different program.
Right.
And it is not a program. My best thinking is that AP curriculum is not developed together with high school.
Mm-hmm.
That is a college course completely. And so the courses that we're talking about here the syllabi, there's a section that belongs to the high school and a section that belongs to the higher ed. So it is a combination. So my best thinking is that that would not be the possibility. However, in the conversation that we had with Alamo College's district, one of the things that we talked about was the materials, because we do have some courses, as Ms. Barra mentioned, that the professors have academic freedom and they're changing them. And we're saying we need to stop that. And
Right.
so that is on the table, and they were willing to consider that and negotiate that piece.
Okay. And then, I think the last thoughts I had, these aren't questions, but I think that from what I'm understanding from the budget slides that you put forward, the 3 early college high school campuses, even if we reduce the enrollment to 80, are reaching more students at a lower cost than JECA. And so it seems to me that maybe the goal we could set for JECA around budget constraints might be to provide the same service for the same amount that we would be able to do for the early college campuses that are at the campuses. And I'm sure there are things that I'm not considering there, one of which is transportation costs, but that might be something to think about.
Certainly can be evaluated.
Something we have to ask. I'm sorry, yes, that was all I had, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask it, yeah.
I'm the Debbie Downer. And I want everyone here to know that this is not personal. There is not one single person in this room who doesn't think that giving students at our district college credit is a bad idea. Some of what I have to say is not for you guys, but I want the people in the room to understand why this is even on the agenda. When we went through the budget adoption process in June, we balanced our budget before giving raises, and the way we were able to do that was by raising the class size ratio for every other class in Judson ISD. We asked for a waiver from state law to do that. So that has had an impact on every other classroom in the district. We got a $4 million refund from a bond project. That cannot be repeated. We cannot get those savings again. We're not going to be able to get the class size reduction savings again. Okay? Our teachers last school year, did not get a raise. None of the staff in the district got a raise. Everyone else around us got raises. And you may have seen a turnover in the number of teachers who left, and part of that is money. In August, we gave a 2% raise, which still puts us below the surrounding districts in terms of pay. We want to keep good teachers. Pay is a big part of that. So we're in a deficit budget this year. Other considerations coming up. We have elementary schools opening. The bond money pays for the actual facilities, but it doesn't pay for the staff. It doesn't pay for a lot of the things that are going to be required to open those 2 new schools that we have for our students. So again, we're going to be in a deficit next year and the year after. We only have a limited amount of money. You can imagine if you think about your household budget and your savings account. How many times can you dip into your savings account without getting more money, without earning more? The state legislature is not increasing the money they're giving the school districts. If you want that to happen, you have to get off your rear end and go vote for people who will make it happen. But I'm being honest. This is where we are. So when I look at this, I look at a program for 400 students to give college credit, which, admirable as it is not the charge that we have from the state, which is to educate pre-K through 12th grade. When we do what we have done, we have impacted 22,000 students and the staff. You heard another employee come in and talk about what happens with
You need
You heard
to keep-
another-
Yeah, we need to let Ms. Kennard speak, please.
We heard another employee talk about what happened with our insurance. We are providing a large amount of money, $235, isn't it, Mr. Elizondo, towards insurance? $355 the district provides to help pay for premiums for teachers. We don't have a money tree to go grab money from. So when I look at what is best for the good of the whole, and what is that saying? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That's where I'm coming from. So this is not personal. We have to look at where, if we intend, if this is a priority, if early college and giving college credit is a priority for the district, where is the money going to come from for that? 80% of our district budget is to pay employees. We've already cut some teachers because we raised the class size wave limits. How much more do we cut to benefit 500 students? So that's what I want you to know. We have to find the money. I did want to make a comment about the transportation. I do think that perhaps we could look at another alternative. I know that when we look at getting students from, this is assuming that we're continuing with the program, that students could be riding an elementary school bus to the elementary school and they could pick up at the elementary schools.
I think that would be one option.
And I understand then that we would have to take an account on early dismissal days, getting them home, and on the days that JEC is in class when our students aren't. But I think that could be a cost savings there. Because the elementary schools start much earlier, that would be an easy solution, and they're at every neighborhood that gets bus transportation. So that might be something to think about that way. I did have one question. The junior year, they must continue while to a senior?
Yes. If our students, for the early colleges that we just opened up, if we continue on this MOU, our MOU states that we have to see those students through the end of their senior year. The current students? The ones for the three early college high schools.
So the ones who've already started?
Yes. If we let them finish off this year, they'll be starting juniors. And if they are juniors, then we do have to let them complete their whole process until they're seniors.
One of the things that I'd like to clarify, Ms. Bear is correct in that, but because the MOU is on the table and it's being negotiated, that could be something that could be negotiated. And ACCD did talk about they're willing to negotiate every component of the MOU.
Thank you. And I did want to go back to the budget cost for JECA. You said was $1,260,000, but that's not really truly reflective of the cost to run the entire school.
That reflects the cost that I've listed there. So if you're correct, if we were to look at utilities and other, which is not included here, all that, but it's not included in the other budget also, so I want to just make a note of that.
So more on the neighborhood of $5 million.
I don't know the utility cost, but,
No, I'm talking about staff. I'm talking about the facility, running the facility, all of that. I think we're probably closer to $3 to $5 million than we are $1,200,000.
yes, ma'am, we do have staff, other staff that is not included here, so you are correct in that sense.
Everybody's looking at me. It's not $5 million. I believe that the number is closer to like 2.3 or $2.5 million. I emailed information to the board maybe 2 months ago or so, but I can definitely look it up again and send it, forward it again.
So half the cost of our class size ratio. We saved about $5 million by reducing class size.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm finished, thank you.
Dr. Montoya?
A couple of things. Again, students, we are very proud of you. JECA historically has been a very good program. I know that the board does support that, and you have accomplished a lot, so we are proud of you. Just a quick side comment, mainly for the board. I have visited with the chancellor of the community colleges at least 3 times, and I understand that they'll be having a Board of Regents meeting here in the next few weeks, and we have stressed, help us. do something, because I noticed tonight's discussion is what can this district do to tighten up the budget so we can continue with JECA. But we're also asking the community college group and the Board of Regents and the chancellor and the presidents, they can do something, we hope. And he did say that they are discussing several ideas. So hopefully, the good thing is that we have an extension from TEA, that we don't have to decide this December. We have a little bit of a window, but again, the chancellor, the community college system, the presidents, and their Board of Regents will be meeting, and we have stressed the fact that we can only do so much. We need your help. So hopefully soon, we might hear, I hope, something positive. Again, that's a comment there.
Mr. Macias.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when we passed our budget July 1st, as Ms. Canoyer said, we had a deficit budget, and that we are projecting, thanks to the wisdom of our CFO, to have even worse case coming around this next year, the following year after that. I say that because Ms. Canoyer pointed out something that is important to note, that 80% of our expenditures from our budget are in personnel. They're in human resources. And this board will be initiating an internal audit of HR, which essentially will be looking at our inefficiencies in that area. When I look at a budget, and if you want to find savings, you look where you spend the most money. 80% of our budget is in that area. So we're going to be looking at number of days, we're going to look at efficiencies of staffing in classroom, we'll look, everything is wide open under that 80%. So I bet you anything, we'll find money that we can save once we initiate that process. At least obviously I feel like my colleagues and I would work hard towards that. So what I'm trying to say is that there is hope, especially with Alamo Colleges also coming to the table. To really make this work completely. But I just wanted to make sure I echoed that fact that we still have some work to do before we make any major decisions like cutting an early college program or JECA for that matter. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Dr. Salinas, I'd like to call for the question now, and that question would be, can we table this discussion? And I'd like to make a motion that we table this discussion till at which time that we can have another meeting with Dr. Cantu, Ms. Berra, ACCD, and all those board members that are going to be invited to that meeting. We just table this discussion for right now. But knowing that for the most part, we are keeping you in mind, JECA. We are keeping you in mind, and you have made a public outcry to us, and that's not going unnoticed. We just want you to know that.
Let's have a motion to table. Second by Mr. Macias. Motion to table by Ms. Pashal. Okay, do we vote on the motion to table and then vote on the motion? Just table? Okay, we will proceed to vote. We're voting to table the motion. Correct? Yes. Motion to table passes 5-1. We'll move on to item 5D, consider and take possible action regarding approving the personnel report and updates. We will move that to closed session. We will continue to item 6A, superintendent report, construction report. Dr. Montoya.
Members of the board, again, briefly, I'll have Dr. Fields update you. We are moving forward on various bond projects that have been approved. It's moving forward in a somewhat timely manner, but Dr. Fields, if you'll briefly share that information.
Yes, sir. The current bonds that we're completing projects on are, again, the 13, 16, and 17 bonds. And most of that work is coming from the 2016 bond. We have about, again, 176 infrastructure improvement projects totaling $135 million. Of those, we have 34 projects that are completed, 31 that are in progress. leaving about 111 projects that we need to complete prior to the year of 2021. So as you can see, we're really ahead of schedule on getting that done. In addition, the 2017 bond consists of the second phase of Veterans Memorial, and we're working on the schematic drawings. I would tell you that we've also planned the groundbreaking for Wortham Oaks Elementary for the 15th of November, so invitations should be going out for that soon. I stand ready for any questions that you may have. That's it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Bishaw.
Thank you. Dr. Fields?
Yes, ma'am.
I know, I think I know. You can tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
When the schools that are under construction or whatever type of repair that they're getting from the bond money, after they have been completed, that particular project has been completed, that is when the facilities department inspects to see if everything that was supposed to have been done and done properly. That's when inspections take place, correct?
No, ma'am, not quite. Some of the projects are so extensive that we have to inspect as we move through the project. So we'll finish a particular wing, and then we'll go through and say, hey, this isn't right, or that's not right. And then they'll go back and fix that then, and then we move on somewhere else. But we try and do that through the project, because if we waited until the end, well, it may take them 3 months to fix everything that they may. And then they may have gone too far in the project to be able to go back and, you know, in cost savings measure, fix it. So, but you are correct. Once we finish a project, we do go back through it and do, like, you know, when you purchase a house, stick the stickers on and say, we need to fix this and we need to fix that.
Okay. Now, that's existing projects, but when a brand-new school's been opened, do you use that same process?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So after a project is complete and everything's been checked off, and after a new school has been opened and everything's been checked off, that's the end of inspections, correct?
No, ma'am, and I would tell you that it takes quite some time for that to happen. As you know, 2013 was Veterans Memorial as well as the Copperfield project, and we're still in the process of closing those out now.
So inspections are still going on?
Not inspections, but we're still trying to look for things to see if we need to call back the contractor or the architect and say, hey, this wasn't to the specifications that, you know. But we are in the process of closing out that particular bond. So we have about $760,000 left over in that bond. Once that's closed, now we can reallocate those funds somewhere else.
What I'm getting to
Yes, ma'am.
is, you know, when you have told me several times that you are expecting the principal of that campus to get in touch with your department and let you know when something needs to be repaired, something needs to be looked at. And I, again, contend that I'm sure you are correct with that.
Yes, ma'am.
But principals are looking at what's going on inside their building, and they're not looking at what's going on the outside of their building.
Yes, ma'am.
And whether the custodian is in charge of letting the principal know or not, I don't know. I don't know what their processes are. But from your department, sir, I'm just asking, why can't a quarterly or by-year, you know, semester or some type of an inspection report go out so that periodically that department is checking the schools to see and whatever has come in from principals, so that we're not going through having to fix things, little things all the time, you know, bus circles and cracks in the pavement. And
Yes, ma'am.
do you understand what I'm saying, sir?
I do. Two things. I would say that we do check the facilities when we go out. Maintenance, custodians, the facilities department, they do looks around the campus whenever they go out to see if they see anything that's obvious that they need to report back either to the maintenance department or the facilities department. But I would also say that part of an administrator's objectives, one of the things that you're evaluated on annually, is your ability to upkeep your facility. And that's in your evaluation. So it is the principal's responsibility to report that back. It's not just, and I don't know how extensive we would expect that inspection to be if we sent, in the facilities department, we really have 2 individuals that are on local funding. So we're putting together $135 worth of infrastructure improvements and 2 major, well, not the major renovations because they're in the infrastructure, but 2 new elementary schools. And we're getting ready to add on the second phase of Veterans Memorial. And we only have 2 local funded facilities people that do that. Everyone else is hired from the bond. So if we now occupy them to go around and do inspections of facilities, when there's a principal, a custodian staff, and all other administrative staff on that campus who can report back to the maintenance department or us if they see something that's happening, and then now they can take their time to go address that particular issue, as opposed to going around inspecting a facility that you stand in all day long, every day.
Well, then, is it something that could be impressed upon to principals at principals meetings, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
We could do
just-
better doing that. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. You're absolutely correct. Yes, ma'am.
I won't take long. I just want to say thank you to your department and also to Mr. Linscombe's department for the groundbreaking ceremony for our new school at Escondido North. Set up so well, wonderful people speaking, just a really wonderful opportunity for me as my first groundbreaking as a new person on the board. And it was very thoughtful and well put together, and I wanted to give my thanks for that.
We appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am.
We'll move on to, 6B has been pulled because Mr. Senator Menendez, excuse me, is not here. So 6C, update on statement of impact amendment by Premier High Schools.
Members of the board, these are statements we get anytime a new school, technically a charter school, is being built that will have an impact on the district. The bottom line impact is that our kids end up transferring over there, and of course, we lose enrollment and funding and other things. So there's a standard form that we fill administratively, and of course, we send it back to TEA, pointing out what the impact will be. So basically, I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. 6D, first reading for the following policies. D1, CDC local, other revenues, gifts and solicitations. D2, CJ local, contracted services. D3, DC local, employment practices. D4, DFAA local, probationary contract, suspension, termination during contract. D5, DFBA local, term contract, suspension, termination during contract. D6, GE local, relations with parent organizations. Any discussion or questions? Okay, we'll move on to 6E.
Excuse me, I had a question.
Oh, I'm
regarding-
sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
No,
Macias.
I
I
didn't get a
apologize.
chance, no. Is this posted on the website? It is, and is it, my book wasn't color-coded. I'm just trying to figure out what the changes are. Is it color-coded online in terms of what the changes or additions or adjustments or any of those things?
These are just new revisions. They're rewrites of policies, so they're total revisions of the policies. So there were no track changes.
Okay, so they were total revisions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Want to save us some money. I asked for this because my understanding is we have 2, possibly 3. Who do I direct this to, Dr. Montoya? Who, you?
Yeah, you
Oh, I was asking him who, you. Okay, Dr. Montoya. Okay, my understanding is that we have 2, possibly 3 law firms that we keep on retainer, thank you. And I know that Mrs. Pashaw has requested several months now, and that's been since I've been here, to find out how much money we spend on lawyers. And did I miss it, Mrs. Pashaw? Did you get it and they didn't share it with everybody?
It was all sent to us on an email.
Oh, they emailed
Yeah,
it.
you should have received that literally in the last week or so, the amounts.
Oh,
the
so it is?
specific
Yeah,
amounts.
okay, in the last week I was out of the
Oh,
country.
okay, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it did get
Yes,
finally, after months. Okay, so I'm gonna look at that when I go home. But now my question is, I would like to look at if we hire a in-house, a staffer, a lawyer here on staff, as opposed to all the money that we're currently spending with the different firms. And I don't mean hire someone and then every time we turn around with a question, they gotta call somebody else. I mean, someone that knows what they're doing, and because several school districts, that's the way they're set up. They have a lawyer on staff. And so what I'm trying to see is, will that save us some money?
I think I need to put it in perspective, because obviously what we sent to you, board members, is public information. In the last 3-4 years, we have spent, with a particular law firm, $1.7 million. With another law firm in the range of some, I can't remember specifics, I think I have it here, in the range of about $300,000. So right there, with 2 law firms, we have spent about $2 million.
$2 million.
In the last 3 years. Now, with that being said, you always have to put it in total perspective, because when you hire a district, and what I mean, a school district attorney, not the district attorney out in the county, right? The school district attorney, you could probably hire one, and I'm just going to throw out numbers because I've done this research. I was in a district where we had to do that also for the same reason. It was about $150,000, and then we hired a paralegal. So you're talking about $200,000, okay? That's a give or take. That means a lawyer and a paralegal that you would hire versus $2 million over time. Now, that all sounds good so far. The thing is that most of your lawyers are generalists. And so every now and then, if you have a unique case, as an example in special ed, you're still going to have to go out and hire for that case. Let's say it may be case by case, not in general, because some of it, the in-house attorney may be able to handle that, depending on what it is. But if it's a very severe type case, the expertise may not be there with the in-house lawyer. Or let's say it has to do with bonds, selling, purchasing, issues with bonds. That attorney may not have that expertise, so you may have to still go out for that particular item and that particular case to go out and hire an attorney. So, but in the big scheme of things, and again, I'm just saying it off the top of my head, you probably would save some money, but you have to understand that you're still going to have to open a door for unique cases that particular lawyer, while they may have the general view of stuff, and that's good, they very specifically, sometimes you still have to go out. I mean, again, those are just my comments, so.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to look at that information that was sent, because like I said, I was out of the country, and trust me,
And again,
on the
like,
beach, I wasn't trying to
members
read
of the
no
board,
emails.
you can also table it and let you have time to look at it and the board to absorb it a little bit more, and whatever the board decides is the route it will take.
Well, I didn't want it put
Yeah,
on
I'm
here
sorry.
to vote.
Yeah, you're right,
we-
it's discussion, so there's no
Exactly.
action right there.
Right, right.
So we can bring it back in the future, ultimately sometime for action, but at least you have time now to review things and talk and see what you're going to do and stuff.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I like that honest input. Very educational. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Rodriguez.
You said that the legal fees that the district pays are public information, so I assume that the legal fees that other districts pay are public information?
Again, you have to be careful because if the cases have been settled, they're public information. If it's an ongoing case, they're not going to release that.
Okay.
And we're in the same boat. We have a couple of cases I can't release anymore because they're still moving forward.
Right.
And that's going to cost us more money too, but that'll be later when I
Yeah.
update you on those pieces.
I guess my next question, and I have no idea if this is even possible to pull this data, if this would be like a huge request or a small request. It would be, I think what would be informative for me is seeing how much some of these similar sized districts on this list who have staff attorneys are paying in additional legal fees to make a comparison. Because I have no idea, looking at our legal fees, how much of that could be done by an in-house attorney versus we'd have to hire it out.
We probably could get some of that information, but keep in mind, depending on the size of the district and what legalities they're involved in will dictate, what they're paying.
Right.
Some may be paying more, some less,
Yeah.
because they may have less cases out there than things that have happened from a legal perspective.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That was something I would need in order to make an informed decision. Thank you.
I guess, I don't know who's next.
Thank you, Dr. Salinas. Dr. Montoya, I'd like to know why none of the districts in our surrounding area were included in this list. How were these districts chosen? I mean, I know this is a TASB report, but give me a little background on why these particular,
Now, what page?
I'm on 233.
Okay, let me go to that.
And none of them are in our area. Is that because none of the school districts in our area have their own in-house attorneys?
No, there are, and I can't tell you off the top of my head, there are some that have them and some that don't. I mean, they're both, but I can't tell you without going back and literally, probably we'll have to have somebody research, our county and look at some of the other districts that we have here and go from there. This just happened to be the TASB report that they sent us, in general, obviously, but we can do a little more research. That's why it's probably good it is a discussion item, and then obviously in the future, whatever you decide as a board is the route we'll take. But we can probably, maybe Mr. Elizondo, why don't we open up a door to see, in the county, other districts that are nearby, what's out there and what they pay, et cetera, et cetera. So we can research that.
And I can tell you a little bit, Dr. Montoya, right now, or help a little bit, and we can do some further research as well. The information that was provided to you is from TASB, and so what happens is they send out salary surveys to all the districts in the state. And then the districts reply to TASB with information about all the positions that they list.
Okay.
Some districts will not participate in the survey, so they don't give any information back. Others, but the majority of us do, because we also want the information from everybody else. And so the ones that you're seeing here are the ones that did reply to the survey.
All right.
And so they definitely have them. Now,
Okay.
in the Bexar County area, the school districts, north side, northeast, they do not have their own employees.
Okay.
What they do, though, is have an arrangement with a law firm to say, we want one of your attorneys to be in our district X number of days per week. So they may say, we want one of your attorneys in our district 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And we're going to fix a cost for that. So we would say, your legal counsel is going to be here, and they're going to be here 2 days a week. And for that, we're going to pay you $90,000 or $100,000, whatever the arrangement is between the school district and that legal firm. And so that when those attorneys are here, they're going to take care of whatever comes across their desk as far as helping the district. However, you still have the situation that Dr. Montoya was referring to, is that that particular attorney may not have the expertise in all areas. So they will still confer with the attorneys at their firm on anything that they need help with. So you will still have additional costs for that, and that will happen whether you have your own attorney or not. One of the advantages, in my opinion, is that when and if we ever go to court, it's always easier for the attorney to defend you if they're the ones who gave you advice and you follow the advice they gave you. So if, for instance, we have our own attorney, in-house employee, and they tell you to handle a matter in a particular way. No, you're fine. I just didn't want to keep talking because I didn't want you to, you're fine. So I was just saying that, in my opinion, and y'all can formulate your own, obviously, is that if we have an in-house attorney, an employee, and they tell us to handle a legal matter in a particular way, and we do that, and then we end up in court, and we end up having to hire a legal firm to represent us, they may not agree with what our attorney told us. And so it's always a safer route to have the firm that's going to be representing you in court give you the advice as to how to handle it, so they can continue to defend you with that same kind of philosophy that they initially gave you. That's always a danger too when we have two firms that, you know the way it is, right? You call this firm and they tell you do it this way, you call this other firm and they may tell you a different way, and then depending on who you use to defend you, you may end up in an awkward situation if you're following one firm but using a different firm to actually defend you. So that's just one of the things just to be careful with. But in our area, the districts do not have employees, legal counsel as staff, as employees. They contract to have an arrangement with a firm, and they use them a certain number of days. I know Northeast does that, Northside does that, and I think San Antonio ISD does a little bit of the same thing as well.
Just one more thing. And just one more thing. If we went that route, is that also an additional cost to our taxpayers?
If we went which route, of an arrangement or?
The suggestion that Ms. Eaton has given to us?
You know, it's going to depend. It goes exactly back to what Dr. Montoya said. It may be a cost savings or it may not. If we have a lot of legal issues, I mean, if it's things that the in-house attorney that we hired as an employee can handle, let's say that we hire an employee that's expert in employment law. And that's what the majority, truthfully, of our legal costs are, employment law. And so hopefully that attorney could handle 90%, 80% of all the issues that come up with employment. And so we would not have to spend any additional costs with an outside firm for that. But if we started getting a lot of things in special ed or in somewhat, construction or anywhere else where we have to outsource it, then we may not save money that particular year. It just all really depends, as Dr. Montoya said, as to what's going on that year. How much litigation do you have? How many grievances do you have? What's happening that causes us to consult with outside counsel about how to handle a particular matter. So it may be a cost savings, it may not. One year it may be, the next year it may not be, and it may just go back and forth. And one year, like even in our own experience, we have years where our total legal expense is $300,000 or $400,000, and then we have years where it's $600,000, and it just depends on what's going on that particular year.
And I thought that was going to be my last question, but I do have one more. That attorney, that in-house attorney, they're going to have a secretary or a clerk, correct? So we're not just talking about an in-house attorney, we're talking about an attorney and clerk, and...
It would be like a paralegal, technically.
Okay, a paralegal, and would that cost also include their insurance? Or would they be covered under our insurance, their own insurance? How does that work?
They would be, as an employee of the district, they would be covered by our insurance, by the district insurance we purchase as professional insurance. However, again, it goes back to once it's out of the school district and goes out to a court of law, then it's whatever the court says happens. And if we have an insurance, typically we'll have insurance to protect us for that as well. So if there's some kind of, that they find us that we did something improper, our insurance company will pay for it. But there are some of those issues. It's a little bit, again, just the safer bet to have an outside firm just because they're insured. And if they really give you wrong advice and things, you can come after them and say, wait a minute, but malpractice for attorneys in school districts is not real common.
Thank you. Mr. Macias.
I was going to say that we've had this item on the agenda in some years back in terms of examining this. And one of the things I remember was distinctly that sometimes an in-house attorney, as you mentioned earlier, isn't an expertise in every field. And so on top of that, they basically start managing other attorneys and brokering out the work. So basically you're paying two. You're paying a full-time salary for an attorney, but then they're giving the work to somebody who does bond attorney or special ed. And then, of course, we still really haven't remedied the issue of having our own board attorneys. So this attorney we'd hire is in-house would be, I would imagine, mainly administrative and handling HR. But we still need a board attorney. We'll still need legal counsel. And so it gets pretty costly. So we'd have to look at this a little closer, but those are all variables into the mix of things. And then I wanted to note that if we had an allocation of more training for our HR department, some of the issues that we see are related to personnel, like grievances that cost money from a legal standpoint. So we minimize that, we're saving money on top of things. But anyway, that's all I have.
So the $2 million that we spent so far, where does that money come from?
It is $2 million, but it is not in 1 year. That $2 million figure is over a 4-year period of time. And
But where did it come from?
It comes from the general operating fund. It comes from our taxpayers' dollars. This is the money we get from the state, taxpayers, that's all part of that where it comes from. Sure.
Okay. I just thought maybe, it came from somewhere else. And then, never mind. I'll ask him myself. Never mind.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to item 6F, discussion of internal audit of human resources.
Again, this was a request from Mr. Macias, but I think, Mr. Elizondo, you have some update information on that one.
Yes, sir. We have engaged the services of an organization by the name of Texas Association of School Business Officials. They're the same organization that conducted our audits reviews for the maintenance department, transportation department, custodial services. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that, maybe even sooner than that, or somewhere in there. Their cost they proposed, it's been a few weeks, but it's either $13,000 or $17,000, so it is manageable. One of the things that Mr. Macias requested, because we definitely, as a board, agreed, want to make sure that the board is involved in this particular audit or in a review. I'll keep using the word interchangeably. So what we want to do is set up a date where the individual who's going to be conducting or in charge of the audit, excuse me, can come out to the school district and set appointments with any of the board members who would like to visit with them, so that y'all can one-on-one share your views as to your concerns, things that you are interested in them looking at. So when they develop the audit program for their review, that they ensure that they're looking at the areas that you're concerned with, and hopefully come up with a successful audit program that y'all will be happy with and that will meet your needs and concerns. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to. And the idea is to do that here in the next couple of weeks, because we would like to see if they can do the actual review in the month of December, so that we can have that finished and a report back to y'all hopefully no later than sometime in January, so that it will help with the budget process.
Thank you, Mr. Elizondo. I don't know if Mr. Garcia wants to address the questions.
Yeah.
Have we had a TASB policy review? I believe you sent it, or somebody sent an email on that. I did notice that on the website, we had a lot of policies that had been updated but had not been put into our board book, but I think they have been now.
They have been. Yes, everything's been updated. We did submit the information that you requested, or that the board requested. As far as conducting a formal audit, we also had a change in an analyst. Our TASB analyst retired, so we've been communicating a little more effectively with our TASB analyst. And our updates that we've cleaned up and audited, he recommended, because we have done so, that to postpone that until 1920. If not, we would start in January. That's the earliest we could start. So if Dr. Montoya wants to recommend that, that'd be fine. I'd hate to do that now. We didn't budget for it. The last time we did an audit, we had the board there, and that cost us $6,000. So depending on how we want to approach that audit and who wants to be a part of that, I would recommend that allowing us to budget for it in this next cycle and then going and pursuing that. Or if the board directs Dr. Montoya, we can begin that in January.
I think the biggest concern is that people were looking at board book, but it wasn't the really updated policy. I mean, that's what the concern was, is that we had employees pulling out policies and then they weren't the right updated policy, because you had to go to the other page and say, oh, wait, here's, but I did look at it this week, and I know it has been cleaned up.
I can guarantee you that is not going to happen. In fact, we've been anxiously awaiting update 109.
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, that was the concern.
Okay.
And then two, have the administrators been trained on, I know we had talked about documentation training, Mr. Garcia, or?
Yeah,
Dr.
Mr.
McCoy,
Garcia, if you go ahead and proceed. dude.
Yes, ma'am. We've had all our effective practices training in late September, and the feedback on that was overwhelmingly positive. We trained approximately 100 administrators, and it was, like I said, a lot of positive feedback on that. And we also provided them with tools, a resource guide, so that they could be guided through any documentation process. So they found it very useful.
And I'm assuming that part of that training was about the grievance policy. You know, Ms. Eaton brings up a good point about all the money that we're spending on lawyers, but we've had several grievances that have cost us quite a bit of money, and some of those grievances turned into hearings, and they were here publicly, and those cost.
Yes, ma'am.
So everybody's been updated on the grievance policy, because we always want to resolve those at the lowest level.
Absolutely, ma'am. They have been. At that training, that was done as well.
Any further discussion? Move on to 6G, financial advisor discussion, Ms. Pichon.
Thank you. Dr. Montoya, the only reason why I put this on the agenda is because I wanted to ask for possibly a policy to be written, sir, that would have to do with the board being able to review and, let's see, how did I have it? Authorize and review and select the underwriters. And there is no policy that says anything like that. So I'm just requesting that a policy be written by your staff and brought to the board for us to make a determination.
And of course, you're aware that right now, and again, through board approval, we have some underwriters because we don't want to fall behind.
This would be future, because this
Yeah.
has already been taken
Yeah,
care of
yeah,
right
for the
now.
past is
For this
okay.
particular bond.
Yes.
It's all been said and done. So this is something that I'm
Down the
asking
line
for.
or
Yes,
something.
sir.
Yeah, we
in the
can do that. That we can do, so.
And I'm sorry, yes, your Dr. Just for clarification, Ms. Michelle?
Yes, sir.
Did you want it for financial advisors or for underwriters? Because they're two different groups.
Is it the financial advisors who choose their own underwriters?
No, the district, we choose both. We choose the financial advisor and we choose the underwriters.
Okay, what I am asking for is a policy to be written that the board can authorize, review who the underwriters would be.
The underwriters, not the financial
Yes, sir,
advisors.
not the financial
Okay,
advisors.
yeah,
Okay,
we
yes,
can
ma'am.
do that.
I guess my question would be, I would question micromanaging, but I also would question, the board's going to create a policy that gives the board direct authorization, and then we're going to approve the policy. I don't know if that's, so we're going to write a policy that says the board can authorize, review, and select an underwriter, and then we have to have the policy, right? We have to then look at the policy, we'll do the first reading and second reading, and approve the policy that's going to give us the authorization?
Technically, yes.
Okay. I don't, sure.
First, I would seek guidance from TASB
Correct.
before we go down that road, and I would also ask and work with Mr. Elizondo on what actually we do have online with regard to board book and policy online. As far as a local policy or a legal policy that gives you that authority first.
Right.
I mean, if you're directing us to write that before we do anything, we'd want to see how that lines up with legal guidelines, with your scope of authority.
That's what I would, I mean, as long as we make sure it's legal,
Yes,
then I think, you know.
yes, ma'am.
May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so, Mr. Gonzalez, there already is something.
I would want to check before, check to see what policies we have regarding financial authority or how that selection process takes place. Is there, I mean, obviously he has a policy, he has some administrative regulations on how they do it, and you don't? So then I would go and see if there are other policies across the state in which that authority has been given to boards.
And would you send that to all of us?
I would send it to the superintendent, and he would send it
Okay.
out to you guys.
All right,
And
thank you,
get
sir.
it to you. Okay.
Mr. Macias, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I'm not hurt. No. Real quick, I think what Ms. Pichelle is trying to reference actually is probably even a broader concern. It's something that I know that we've brought up in the past in terms of procurement policies. So something that's broader in terms of how we standardize or how we operate our procurement rules. I know we have a very in-depth policy. Am I correct? There are procedures that we have in our procurement office on how we do everything. Am I right on that? Maybe what needs to be done is a review of that, because that's always been on my checklist, the procurement policy, because there's always something somewhere. So if we can make it a better policy and examine some of the other procurement policies in the state or in San Antonio, it'll make, I think, our work a little more efficient. Not that it's inefficient, but, you know, we're always strive to be better. So it's just been a wish list of mine. And Ms. Pichelle, I think that what you're asking for has that essence to it. It's broader than just even this aspect of it. So this isn't the right agenda item. I just wanted to kind of put out that it's a concern for me as well.
Okay, we'll move on to 6H, update on board advisory committees. Do we have any updates? No? Okay, 6I, update on board trainings, conferences, events, and consider future agenda items or requests by board members. Saw a very nice picture that was sent to me.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. And I would like to say that I was honored to be with my other colleagues at this conference. It was a very good conference. I'm going to defer to them if they would like to say anything about that particular conference. I would like to add an agenda item.
Okay, what's your agenda item?
I've already talked about it. That process, that policy, that's what I wanted to make sure that would be on the November agenda, please. But I want to say that conference this time, it was great. I'll defer to them.
Thank you. I did attend the TASB TASA conference in Dallas, and one of the speakers that Ms. Pichelle and Mrs. Rodriguez and I all listened to was very powerful and very motivating, and has got some wheels turning in my head that I'm going to be bringing forward with talking to some principals after, of course, conferring with Dr. Montoya about which a number of sessions on increasing parental engagement, which I think is a huge issue for our district. And I'm very, very excited about some of the ideas that I got, and be bringing those to you, Dr. Montoya.
Yes, I was there too. That's what Ms. Canori said, and you know, I kept trying to just tag along with my colleagues, and I'm just kidding. It was really a lot of fun, and enjoyed the conference as I always do. There were a lot of sessions I attended, but one that probably left the most lasting impact on me specifically is the development of a code of ethics for our employees, for our teachers, so that we have a standard that we need to adhere to. And so I took a lot of notes, and took a lot of pictures, so I'll reevaluate what I'm trying to bring together, but that was extremely enlightening. And a lot of it stems with choices that teachers make, that our employees make, that are in the gray area. And how do we help our employees understand that you need to be very clear about what it is you're doing and understand what the implications of what you do have. So again, we'll revisit. I just wanted to echo that was a really good session, and I enjoyed that one. Also, for a future agenda item, I want to put a discussion for drafting a resolution. I've kind of been kicking the idea of committing to our community, to our district, the fact that we need to ensure that all of our kids are at grade level, each and every grade level and beyond. And I know we may have some standards there, but I think it's time that we really find out why we have some of these deficiencies, and that we come together and fill those gaps in, and make sure that when a second grader graduates, they're at second grade, and when a third grader graduates, they're at third grade level, and fourth grade, and so on, so that we can start to change things. And so, I want to just discuss that at our next meeting.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, I will look forward to that discussion. I think it will be lively, Mr. Macias.
I only like lively, that's it.
And I just wanted to echo what my colleague said about the TASB conference. I think it was a very inspiring experience for me, and I look forward to having conversations around equity in our district across many lines. And that was, I think, one of the biggest takeaways that I had from that particular one. And I really appreciate that the district sets aside a bit of money for us to be able to travel and have those experiences. And we tried to be as fiscally conservative as we could in using those funds wisely for that training. So thank you.
I just want to correct Mr. Macias. First and second graders and third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, they don't graduate. They get promoted. You graduate twice. You graduate from high school, or if you choose to go to college, you graduate from college. But first, second, third, they don't graduate. They get promoted.
That's why we're a team. Thank you, Ms. Bichette.
We'll proceed to closed session. We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney, 551.074, discussing personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. 551.074 is to discuss personnel, update and revisions on superintendent goals, discussion of the distribution of duties as a result of the administrative curriculum vacancy, 551.071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues related to the Jeff Investments in Controls and Oversight under Memorandum of Understanding with the Judson ISD Board, Government Code 551.071 and 551.0821, deliberation and consultation with school attorney regarding pending litigation and possible settlement of student versus Judson ISD School District before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas, docket number 255-SE-0617, and the time is now 9:23.